In a perfect run, you probably want him at D, because D would mean max power and shoulder uppercut. That was a rough run. So apparently we can save 3 minutes. Sum of best. Which I think is a little bit misleading, because in some of my early runs I might have split in the wrong spot. Granted, this is my 22nd run, so they're all still kind of early runs.
The Bouncer.
It's not super RNG heavy, Fitz. It is somewhat luck dependent because, hang on. It's somewhat luck dependent because you can't control what your teammates do, and you can't control where the enemies run. So, there are some runs where I've had enemies that have just basically ran and hidden from me, which can be a pain. And then you get some runs where your teammates are absolute dead weight, which means early in these battles you have to do way more of the fighting. But later in the run, that's what's kind of nice. Later in the run, it's not very RNG heavy at all. It just depends on how well you do in some of those battles. Although I guess the enemy's attack scripts are pretty bad too, because all of these enemies can basically infinite combo you to death if they want, and you just have to hope that they will decide not to. So it can be finicky, but I wouldn't say that it's super RNG heavy. Although you're talking to someone who picked up Yu-Gi-Oh! As his first speed game, so when I think of RNG heavy runs, I think of Yu-Gi-Oh! Can we get Nope, didn't get Jukebox Skip. But I say it's just about the right amount of RNG. The one boss that always kills my runs is the most RNG heavy, because he will just infinite combo you to death. The run has gotten less and less RNG heavy as I've found better ways to control these enemies. If you control combat well... See, that's kind of part of the problem. Like, that enemy ran away, and our teammates decided not to fight him. So you lose a little bit of time chasing him down. And sometimes, this happened to me the other night, I was going to world record by about 2 minutes. Because in this battle coming up, not this one, but the next one, the enemies lined up perfectly, and I chained all of them. Meaning, I got 20 XP, or no, I think it's like 40 at that point, times 8, and I got that about 3 times. So we had way more upgrades than we needed, super early in the run. Which obviously you do more damage in every battle, and then you multiply that out times the entirety of the run. It was unbelievable. But we ran into that one boss that I said can be a real jerk. And he was a real jerk, and he killed us. So even though we were over-leveled, it didn't matter much. And there's not a super consistent way to do like guard manipulation or anything. I have a theory, but it's just a theory. I think that if you hold a direction when you attack, sometimes you can attack through an enemy. So even though you're front to front with them, your attack frames will go through them, and it'll count as an attack behind them, so it'll avoid their guard. And then other times, if you hold back, it seems like you can do a high attack on them, which can avoid their block, even though it doesn't seem like it would. And a lot of these are things that I kind of remember from playing this game when I was growing up. And they're things that seem to work. I haven't taken apart the guts of this to figure out whether or not they do, but they just seem to work. That was slow. We got the chain, which is good. Oh, missed the headbutt there. Is that gonna be enough? Exactly enough. Crank up. Come on. Come on, load. Well, and as I continue to answer your question, Fitz, there is a slight amount of button RNG. Because attacks are based on a heavy and light press of the button. Wow, that was bad. And if the game decides that you're pushing the buttons too hard, you won't chain enemies the way you want to. That was a pretty good fight. Although we did lose time. Exactly 240. This has been a perfect XP route right now. Because that's 2 fights in a row now that we've had 0 XP when we finish them. Or 0 battle points, I guess is what they call it. This is PS2. But yeah, pressure detection. And I lower its pressure detection, and the calibration is pretty far off. So before I start the game, I lower my sensitivity down to low, because the 3 hard punch, the 3 high punch combo that does the most damage is 3 light presses. So you basically want the sensitivity as low as possible, and even then, it still doesn't do exactly what you want it to do. And of course, the in-game timer counts your menuing before you start. So you want to have optimal pre-game menus. Although it's a very weird game, we use a combination of real-time and in-game time. I'm not entirely sure why, it's just what Turbodog likes to do. T-check, the tea is cold. And it's the bottom of the teacup, so it's really slow. Oh, shoot. That's bad news. Normally you can get around that guy. Sometimes Slam will not go into you. So that's some of the RNG we're talking about. Ah. And if you're a Square fan, you have to love Volt's jacket. You may not be able to see it on this screen, but he has Cactar on his jacket that says "No Escape." On the subject of things that I want to have made for me someday, a spiky leather jacket with a Cactar on it. Pretty near the top of the list. Take that. This is one of 2 parts in the game where you don't have to fight any of the enemies. You can just run point to point and skip all of them, which is kind of nice. I think it will come in handy when it comes to submitting this for SGDQ, because I can point out there's a spot to read a bunch of donations. And you get a little bit of back and forth, talk a little bit about the history of the game, all that kind of stuff. Oh boy. Nice! Okay, that was good. There's also gravity RNG, I suppose. Because when you hit enemies, they ragdoll. They turn into projectiles.
It was nothing.
I've mentioned that before. But then, when they both hit the ground, if one of them bounces high enough, they can bounce back into the first one, and that counts as another collision. So you can get those guys to bounce off of each other like 10 times, and if they do that, then they basically just kill each other on the ground. That's why enemy control and making sure you get those ragdoll knockdowns are so important.
Be careful.
Because you can wipe out enemies so fast. And in Volt's run especially, that comes into play in a big way. I stopped going for that uppercut. He will always want to. Again, here we're talking about enemy control, trying to knock him towards the combat. Also trying to be able to see where the combat is, really. Alright, both of those enemies died at the same time. That works out pretty well. Our XP is a bit light, but that's okay. Because we don't... Volt is nice because you don't need maximum XP to get a good time. Sion, you pretty much need a good XP run, because you need as much power as humanly possible. Volt starts with pretty good power. And his upgrades are pretty nice. That works out pretty well. Away. That's the boss. Right now, I'm trying, in vain, to separate the boss from everyone else. We didn't get him there, but we got him. We killed him, so it's okay.
What kind of...
This is looking a lot better than our last run when we got here. Unfortunately, and you know this if you speedrun or you watch speedruns a lot, that one split that you think is free every time can all of a sudden decide to be a giant problem. And today, that's been this split. Especially when we do things like miss the first uppercut. And ground combos are very much a thing in this game. You can hit enemies when they're on the ground. So that's why we do that full body splash. Duragon, that guy, is one of the few enemies where when you knock him down, you can do the diving splash and still land on it. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I run this game enough, I'm going to start learning how to count in different languages so that when we skip all those cutscenes, we can do them right. I apologize for scratching my nose. That was a great example of pressure detection. Not quite doing what we wanted. Okay. Also, minute 16 fast is more what I expect when I get to this part. Okay, we need a good chain here. We need good enemy movement. There's a lot of things. I'm going for that guy first. It's bad for the XP route. Oh, wow. And if these guys just power attack, we're kind of... Oh, nice. We got out of that pretty quick. E rank. Alright, so that worked out really well for us. Because those enemies took a lot of damage and bounced off of each other, we ended up making up a lot of the time that we were going to lose. You know, like those enemies didn't bounce off of each other at all. The rest of the enemies did not come to be a part of the battle, so we're actually going to be a little bit slow through here. Less, okay, that helps. These guys up here are the real big problem because you need to knock them into each other because they have long health bars, and for whatever reason, they're kind of lazy. This is the first time that they've actually put up a fight. Normally they would just stand around and not do it. But now I'm going to have to do this a little bit different. We got out of that pretty quick. Yeah, not as fast as I would have liked, I don't think. But we get that power upgrade. So now we go out a door, around, up. Alright, this is where all three storylines come together. This is kind of the searching for friends part of every Square game. And you find the broken computer. That's from Sion. Sion had some issues with the computer, had to call tech support. And tech support was not very helpful. So they ended up breaking the computer. Bolt finds it later. He runs upstairs. And you end up meeting all your buddies again. Come on. Alright, we got the 200 times 2. Whoops. I'll take one life up there. Kind of a weird thing to do, but we gold splitted there by about 6 seconds because we got a really favorable fight with that boss.
What if?
And I sort of mashed all of my buttons at once.
There are intruders in...
This is an escort mission, sort of. It's also another area where you don't have to fight any of the enemies at all, because you just have to run to the staircase. Now, as a kid, and playing this growing up, this was one of the more difficult parts, because these robots are horrible. They hit very hard, and your health bar persists throughout this level. So, if you get into fights with too many of these robots and they take your HP down, you can die before you get to the end of these 4 staircases. And you also hope you get runs like that, where the robots are far enough away from the guardrail that you can just run around them without having to do your little boxing sprints. That was actually really good. Skip that guy pretty quick. So you do a little bit of juke moves there to kind of keep the robots on one side or the other. Music that sounds like it's from Star Wars. This part's tricky because it sends you... It wants to send you basically straight ahead, which is a red herring. If you go that way, you will basically you'll have to fight a bunch of robots and then go back. But because the camera angle doesn't cooperate, you don't know that. And that kind of is really annoying. Again, this way you have to run left, but if you don't know that that's where you're supposed to go, you have no way of knowing. Because normally a game will like start you with the camera facing the direction you want to run. But that's not the case with the bouncer, and especially in this part, it can force you into battles that you do not want. Now that guy stays high, which he did, okay, we get around. We run to the staircase. That's the second time she's been like frozen in the staircase when we go to it. Normally she'll follow you down. Again, it looks like you want to run behind the stairs there. You don't. That is just a dead end. You want to run this way, past the Mr. Grabby Hands, and get on the other. Our XP is pretty low. That's okay, but we usually want to have all of the power upgrades by the time we get to Echidna 2, because she's with those 2 giant robots. It can be a real pain.
Talk.
And this guy is also a pain. If he decides he wants to block and do all of his attacks, then there's not much you can do about it. Wait for him to get up. Waiting for him to get up is a bold proposition, because if he decides to block and start doing his counterattacks, you just waste a ton of time.
House down the knee.
Alright, and this split was, in our PB, was a gold split, which I believe, because this is actually a really fast split. This is a little bit risky. You don't want those enemies to be by each other, because then one of them can start trying to hit you while you're attacking, essentially. We got lucky there, it let us counter his jab. Got through that, so we are going to have the power upgrade. E rank.
Again.
Okay, this is another part that's sort of boss RNG dependent. If Echidna runs far enough forward, then you just pull her off to the side. But if she stays in the middle, you got some problems. And we're gonna have to deal with this. Fighting an enemy we can't see. Now we can see it. Got her. Took a bit of a gamble there to try and save some time. When I knocked her up into the... Well, one, we fought her in between the robots. And then two, we did the body splash, which, because she's a very small enemy, 99% of the time the body splash won't work. But I wanted to dive on her, because if she got up and got through the robots again and we couldn't see her, you never want to fight enemies you can't see. Now, that said, we've got a great run going. This guy can completely end the run. It is very much possible that runners can have, well, I mean, there's only two of us, but it's very possible that you can have a losing record against this guy because he just ruins your life. Counter there. Okay. We had him and we lost him. Got it. There we go. Alright, we gotta run now. Those are all the upgrades I'm gonna take because I do not want to C rank. So even though we'll get more XP here, I'm not gonna use any of it. And I only need to PB by 14 seconds to world record. So we're in a good spot right now. Her first move... Yeah. First move is almost always to transform back into a person. Perfect. That is exactly the fight you want. How that didn't gold, I have no idea. Oh, because the Mugetsu 3 fight was quick in that last run. Shoot. Tried to add damage with the splash there. Got him that time. Oh, don't ragdoll me. Flash got him. Okay, we're good. No. It's okay if Sion dies, which he... Got him. Fade to black. In-game time is 17 minutes. I believe that ties the world record in-game time. But the former world record for that was 24:55, so we got world record by a minute and 20 seconds. So that's world record by a lot. Whew. We lost 7 seconds on that fight, too. kind of crazy. Whew. We'll watch the cutscene.
Sion? It was terrible. I was dreaming that I was killing lots of people.
It was just a bad dream, and you won't have any more of them. I promise.
Let me check for sure. I want to make sure that 17 is the...
Oh no.
Hey, we're gonna ram the satellite. Volt, change course.
By the way, spoilers for the end of
This
this.
ain't no air carrier.
Damn it!
Yep. Alright, so we tied Turbodog's in-game time, and we cut a minute 20 off of his world record. So, that's cool.
The back.
And that
of
is
this big
the
ship.
essentially any percent
Back
world
of it
record as
will
well,
return to
because
Earth.
Volt is the fastest character.
What are you talking
By
about,
a lot.
Dominique?
I saw it in that horrible
Woo!
dream.
Zanzi, you're just
This
in
big
time. We
ship
got world
splits
record.
into two.
And now we're watching the
In
end
your
of the
dream?
final cutscene for the
It's
fun of it.
true.
I'm gonna trust Dominique.
Trust Dom.
Sion,
By the way, you find
Well,
out
it's
really
all or
quickly
nothing.
why this game is like a typical
All right,
playthrough of
then.
this game. If you don't get wow, a typical playthrough of this game. Whoa, 100 bits from Zanzi. World record hype. Thank you so much, Zanzi. All right. So yeah, a typical playthrough of this game, if you don't skip cutscenes, is like 2 hours. Because 23 minutes of the game is fight sequences, the rest of it is cutscenes. And they're pretty good. It's a great game. When I get to 1,000 followers, I'm going to do a lore run of this game, and you guys will get to see the entire movie. Which, at the rate I've been going, I mean, I should get there before too long. Boom! They crashed into the evil satellite that was going to try and take over the world. Actually, it's been a long time since I've seen this. I'm trying to remember what happens. Well, that was the final boss, who always carried a flame for Dominique, floating out in the cold depths of space, like George Clooney. We're still okay. Volt with his horns and his cactar
Death
jacket.
is avenged. Master Mikado.
Oh, that's right. Master Mikado is Doragon's dad, who is the guy who was the final boss and died. Then meanwhile, back at the bar...
So how's Dominique been since the incident?
Don't worry. Thanks to the destruction of that satellite, she's been her usual self.
She's going to figure it out eventually, you know. When we grow old, she's still going to look the same.
Yeah, it turns out she's not quite a real girl.
I'll tell her when the time comes.
But again, that's another common thing with Square. If you look at Aerith, if you look at Terra,
But until
if you
then,
look at Dominique,
I want her to live a normal life.
just kind of the way it always is. Kind of like the protagonist has to wear a dog collar for vaguely explained
Yeah,
reasons.
maybe you're right.
Sion wears a dog collar.
Bolt.
Sora wears a dog collar. Does Tidus wear a dog
your
collar?
shift.
I don't remember.
Okay, I'm coming.
Those are some cool tattoos, though.
Man, I'm so
Zanzi,
bored.
again, thank you so
This
much
place has
for
been
the
too
bits.
quiet ever since
Yeah,
that
hurry!
incident.
We got world record.
Hey, if we're not doing anything, it means the bar's doing
And thanks
just
again for the
fine,
host,
right?
Furry. I missed you earlier. I didn't have my alerts on, and that's why I missed you. I'm really sorry about that, because normally, you know, I try to be really good about those things. I always love thanking people.
Wow.
He has an earring
at
in
work
his
again.
gauge.
How's it going, Dominique?
You want to talk about punk
I'm doing
rock?
all right.
Having an earring
Actually, I'm
in
doing
your
better than ever
gauged ear
before.
is where it's at.
Huh? What is it?
Lately you've been
Black and
looking
a
a
bull
lot
ring.
kinder, Volt.
Well, he does have a nose piercing, I guess.
No, that can't be good.
That would be
Why?
cosplay
I
dedication.
could lose my job, you know.
At least you're not scaring away the customers.
Dog.
What's the point of being a bouncer if the bar's
She's
empty?
adorable.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
So don't change anything. You got that, Volt?
Although he's wearing a brown
See,
belt with a black jacket.
Maybe you were right after all.
Does this bar have room for another bouncer?
Hey, it's that boss we beat the
kidnap.
nonsense out of about
They
4
hired
times.
you as a bouncer. I
Check
should
out
be
the dead
more
or
than
alive
qualified
physics
for the
here.
job.
If she moves in any direction, she jiggles.
I thought I
It's
told
very
you to
weird.
settle
Dead or
down
alive
and lead a
physics.
normal life.
Like I said, what I call it.
Show me a man who is stronger than me, and maybe I will.
Aina.
Oh, I'm just drinking
Don't
water,
call me by
Instant
that
Star.
name.
See, she jiggles.
My
The
name's
dead or alive physics.
Echidna.
Fine. Have it your way.
But yeah, I'm going with world record runs, Instant Star. So just drinking water. I'll let you guys hear a little bit of Love is a Gift. The best song in any video game ever. Sung by the one and only Shanice Wilson. No worries, Zanzi. You have a great night. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the bits. You got here just in time for the world record. I think we're going to switch it up and run with Ko now. Because I've learned so much since I got the Ko record. And I mean K-O-U, I don't mean K-O hyphen. But yeah, this is the love song right here. Top song of 2018. They don't have it. They don't have a karaoke. If there was karaoke, yeah. I'm not gonna faux sing anything else. Okay, so where can this run save time? One of the things, it's kind of my tradition after PB, you go back to where the run saves time. Echidna won. Echidna obviously did that. Only got 28, or we lost 8 seconds there. Then we lost 10 seconds at the bots. And then we lost 8 seconds there, so we're at 18. You're looking at easily another 40 seconds. And there's some very stupid things I did that not doing them, you can save about another minute. I see where Turbodog was, I see what Turbodog was saying there. Very easy to save at least a minute on that run. So we're going to go ahead and update those. We are going to